welcome back to my channel. Today let's solve Leetcode problem 1488, avoid flood in the city. Your country has an infinite number of lakes. Okay, initially all the lakes were empty, but when it rains over nth lake, the nth lake becomes full of water. Okay, whenever rain happens on a specific lake, the lake will become full. If it rains over the lake that is full of water, there will be a flood. Okay, if the lake is already full and if rain happens once again on the same lake, then it will be flooded. Okay, your goal is to avoid floods in the lake, in any lake. Okay, given an integer array range where range I is greater than 0 means there will be a rain over the range of I lake. Okay, so if you see here, this is greater than 0, that means there will be a rain on second lake. This means that there will be a rain on the third lake. Okay, if it is 0, if range of I is equal to 0 means there is no rain on the particular day, and you can choose any one of the lake on this day to dry it. Okay, so let's take this example. Okay, if you see on the first day there was a rain on the lake 1, on day 2 there was a rain on lake 2, whereas on day 3 it's a dry day. Okay, so there is no rain on the particular day. You can choose any one of the lake from the any lake possible and make it dry. It is not necessary that you have to choose only the lakes which were already filled with water previously. You can choose any lake. Okay, but the best way, our goal is to actually make flood free, right? So we will choose the lakes which were already filled previously and try to dry them back. Okay, so what we have to return? Okay, we have to return an array called answer where answer's length is equal to the range length. Okay, we have to build an array whose length will be equal to range, and we will be filling the ith index of answer with -1 whenever there is a rain on the corresponding day. Okay, let's say on the day 2, if you fill it with -1, that means there was a rain on the day 2. Okay, then only we will be filling it with -1. We will fill it with the lake you choose. Answer of I is the lake you choose to dry on the ith day if the range of I is equal to 0. Okay, if on a particular day, if it is dry day, basically if it is 0, that means we will actually choose a rain, we will actually choose a lake to dry, right? So whatever lake you choose to dry on this particular day should be part of the answer. Okay, so on day 3 here they have chosen lake 2 to get dry, so that's the reason the answer will contain 2. Okay, if there are multiple valid answers, return any one of them. Okay, you can return any one of the possible answers. If it is not possible to avoid flood, return an empty array. Okay, so if you take this an example, they have written an empty array, that means you can choose any particular combination, still at least there will be one lake which will get flooded. Okay, so there's no way we can return it. So we'll actually look into it how it is getting flooded. Okay, let's go step by step and try to figure out how they have filled it. Okay, so I have written few test cases here. So if you see, this is the rains array. So on day 1 there is a rain on lake 1. Okay, on the first lake there was a rain. Okay, so I am filling the corresponding with -1. They have mentioned it. So on lake 2 also there was a rain, so I am filling it with -1. On day 3 also there was a rain, so I am filling it with -1. On day 4 also there is a rain, we are filling it -1. There is no dry day which is part of this rains array, right? Let's take this example. Okay, on day 1 it was a rain, so we filled with -1. On day 2 it was again rained on lake 2, so we have filled it with -1. On day 3 it was we can actually choose one of the lakes. Okay, either from 1 or 2, you can choose any one of the lake to dry it. Okay, so here let's say we have chosen lake 2 to dry it. Okay, so this is one of the example where there is one of the test case where multiple answers were actually possible. Let me show you. Okay, so let's say firstly -1, so both the lakes were filled. On day 3, if I choose lake 1 to fill it, okay, and on day 6, 1 was already dried, so there is no point of again drying the lake again, so I can choose lake 2 to dry it, okay. On day 5, again there is a lake on there is a rain on the lake 2, so lake 2 was already dried on day 4, that means the lake 2 is currently empty, so there is no chance of getting it flooded, so there can be a rain possible over there, that's the reason we are filling it -1. Even now there is a rain on the lake 1, okay. Even the lake 1 was already dried on the day 3, so here also we can actually fill it with there is a possibility for the rain, okay. So both of these are valid solutions in this test case, for this particular test case. Let's look at this particular example, okay. On day 1, okay, on day 1 there is a rain on the lake 1, so we fill it with -1. Day 2 there is a there is a rain on the lake 2. Since lake 2 was not filled previously with water, so we have filled it, we have populated the answer with -1. Again, now either we can choose any one of these lakes. Let's say we have chosen lake 1 to be filled out, okay, lake 1 to be filled, lake 1 to be dried. So now the lake 1 is dried out, only lake 2 is filled so far. On now, since lake 1 is already dried out, I can fill the lake 1 with water. Now there is a rain on lake 2. Lake 2 was already filled with water, so there is no possibility that I can fill it again. So if there is a rain, then it will be flooded. Whenever there is a flooded case, we have to return with empty array. So that's the reason we have written it with empty array. We have populated the answer array so far, but here it has basically violated the requirement which they have mentioned, so we will be returning empty array, okay. In the similar way you can also try it out for this case, okay. So idea here is, let's say we will not, whenever we have encountered a dry day, there are multiple possibilities to dry any one of the lake, okay. Instead of deciding straight away what lake to be dried out, we will just keep track of the days on which we have encountered the dry days, okay. So here if you see, we will keep track of two things, okay. One is what are all the lakes which were filled so far, okay. What are the full lakes so far? Full lakes, or we can say fill lakes, okay. Full lake, okay. What are the lakes which were filled completely so far, okay, on day 1, and we will also keep track of the days on which we can actually choose to dry, okay. So let's say we have an array called dry days, okay, which we can actually choose to dry out the lakes, okay. So on day 1, lake 1 was filled. Since there were no lakes filled so far, okay, the lake, we are on day 1, okay. Now 1 was not filled with water so far, so I can fill happily. So lake 1 was filled so far, so I will populate with -1. Again, lake 2 was also not filled so far, so again I will populate my full lakes with 2 as well. Now I have encountered a dry day, okay. Instead of making dry one of my full lakes, I will basically keep track of index, okay, keep track of index of my dry days, okay. Again, now 2 has arrived, okay. Now since 2 was already part of full lakes, okay, I cannot straight away fill this lake, okay. I should first see the possibility whether I can dry this lake or not, okay. In order to see whether I can dry this lake or not, when was 2 arrived, okay. 2 was, I have filled the lake 2 on day 2, okay. So I will also keep track of when was this lake filled. Okay, this lake 1 was filled on, let's have it as 0 day, 0 index day. Okay, lake 1 was filled on day 0, lake 2 was filled on day 1. Okay, now again I have encountered lake 2 on day 3. Okay, so I cannot fill my lake 2 again. So I have to basically see, was there any dry day after day 1. Okay, since 2 was filled previously on day 1, there has to be at least one dry day which is after day 1. Luckily we have one dry day. Okay, so we will be making utilize of this dry day and I will be drying it out. Okay, since I have dried it out, whenever we are actually filling any dry day, whenever we are actually utilizing the dry day, we have to correspondingly update the day on which we have filled it. So 2 we have removed from the dry day and we have populated over here. Okay, now since it was dried out, now I can rain on the day 3. So again this will be removed and this will be updated to 3. Okay, now I am at day 5, sorry, 0 1 2 3 4, I am on day 4. Okay, now day 4 is again a dry day, day 5 is also a dry day. So I won't populate this right away. Either you can choose to fill it with 1, default will be assuming that any random lake will be dried out, but later we will be overriding it anyhow. Okay, previously also we will first populate it with. Okay, let's come back to that again. Now I am at day 6. Okay, on day 6 I am at 1. Okay, now lake 1 was already filled with water on day 0. So is there any empty lake after day 0? Okay, yes, there is an empty lake after day 0. We will be picking the first lake which is after day 0, first dry day after day 0. Okay, so which is actually 4. So the 4 is filled with 1. Okay, and this will be filled with -1. Okay, so the idea here is to keep track of when was lake filled. Okay, keep track of the lakes filled, when was lake filled on what day, and also keep track of dry days. Okay, so let's jump back to the, so in order to retrieve the first day, okay, now let's say I have to dry lake 1. Okay, so here I have to dry lake 1, so I have to find out the first index which is greater than 0, which is empty and which is greater than 0, right? So this will first dry day which is greater than 0. So here it is 4. Okay, so how can I get it? So using tree set has one inbuilt method which will help us to achieve this. Okay, so I have already done the code for this. Let me just walk you through the code. Okay, I have defined dry days as a tree set. Okay, and I have also have an hash map which will keep track of the lake and the corresponding day at which the lake was filled. Okay, I am just populating, I am just define arrays equal to the length of the rains. Okay, so total we have these many days, and then I have filled the answer with 1. You can fill it with any possible value, it will not affect to your solution. Okay, just now it was previously 1, I made it as 5. Okay, so I will just iterate to the rains, and I mentioned that first if it is dry day, okay, there are only 4 possibilities. If it is dry day, then I should straight away populate with dry days. Okay, I will populate it in my dry days. If it is not a dry day, that means there are 2 possibilities. Okay, either the lake will be empty on the given day, or it can be filled. If the lake is empty, that means my full lakes will not contain the current lake, so I can straight away populate it with -1 and add the current lake to my full lakes. So I just populated it. Let's say if the lake was, now I will only reach this particular state only in the case when the lake is part of full lake. Okay, now since the lake is part of full lake, okay, that means let's say I am at this particular one. Okay, now I am processing this particular day. Now 1 is part of my full legs. Now I have to get the first index which is greater than 0 and it's a dry day. So in order to achieve that, I can use a inbuilt function which is ceiling, which will get me the first index which is greater than the given day. Okay, so this will give you the day at which the corresponding lake was filled. I need a day which is greater than this particular day, and it is part of dry days. Okay, so that's the reason I'm doing this. Okay, if there is no, if it is not, if we found a not null value, that means we have found a day, dry day, which is greater than the previously rain day. Okay, so I will just populate it with -1, and then I will also correspondingly I should also populate my dry day with the corresponding lake which I have dried it, and then I will remove from my dry days, and then again I will override with my, since it got rained on this particular day, I will populate it with 1,5. Okay, so now if I reached over here, that means there is a lake which is filled with water, and there is no empty lake, there is no dry day after that particular day which was previously filled. So I have to basically written with empty array. So let's just run this problem solution. So as I mentioned, it does not matter whether you choose 1 as a default value or 5 as a default value, still our test cases are actually passing. Let's also submit this solution. So even all the test cases are passed. So our algorithm is pretty efficient over here. So the time complexity here would be, since we are actually getting the first element which is higher than the lake. Okay, so this would actually take log n time complexity. Okay, so overall it would be like I would say n log n maybe. Yeah, so that's all for this problem. Do subscribe to my channel for more such coding videos. Thank you.